So the recording of our workshop started now, just to make you aware of that. Okay, so again, similar thing as always, we will then discuss in groups, then post the activity response on Padlet, and we will have the link of the Padlet for the activities. So the first thing I will ask you to do is if you can come to this website. So this website will show data for countries in terms of their extraction, and it's basically an application of material flow approach, and we will see which methodology they use there, which is our first question. Look at the methodology that they use there and compare that with the methods that we saw in the lecture. All right, so you have 10 minutes to explore that website and then look at then discuss with your colleagues the differences, and then post a Padlet different aspects that you can be just bullet points of how you think it's best to then identify how their methodology relates to what we discussed in class. It will be good in one side to uh, then apply what we saw in class, which then will consolidate those concepts and help us navigate them better. So I'll create here. Oh, by the way, let me ask you one thing. I will make a poll here. So would you prefer, like, because we have 9 people, just discuss everyone together in one group, or you want to break it out in groups? So yep, I made a poll here, but I see there is a preference from one group. Okay, so let's do that. Most people want one group. All right, so that's good. I think it's okay, but I want you guys to lead discussion. All right, I don't want to interfere on that. So I'll be here in the background. If you have questions, we can discuss together. But it would be great to see you guys discussing. Okay, and I can help with that. I will pass. I mean, these links you can, if you download the workshop material on Moodle, it's there. But I will paste the link here as well. So how do I do that? I have to come to my presentation. So I'll paste all the links. All the links here in the chat. And then I will ask you to go. I'll ask you to go to this one. You can go to the main page first, but then go to the methodology page and then try to relate the methodology that they describe there to what we saw in the class. And then I want to see discussions here. If you prefer I'm not here, I can turn off my camera and my phone, my audio, and stay out of the discussion. Otherwise, don't bother about me. Just do your thing. Just let you know I'm here in the background. So any questions, I'm happy to interfere. I just don't want to distract you. So let's all open the website. I will open it too. just checking. Are you all in this page now? It's super cool, right? You can just look at most of these definitions we have covered in the lecture, but then we see them here with other words. So it may be very helpful to clarify if something was not very clear from the lecture. And then if you look at here, they have an overall presentation of their methodology. So I guess there are a few keywords here. Sorry, I forgot to send the Padlet link. Yes, my bad. There it goes. See if you can access that. Thank you. So I'll keep it here. So I trust that by now most of you have been able to open that web page and looked at the description of their methodology and maybe browsed over the different components of that. I'll open it again here. Most components of that diagram, right? So can you then start highlighting aspects of the methodology? So we see here that they have, I will highlight my first aspect and then you guys build upon it, all right? So one of the things that I see is that they bring the focus to raw material equivalents, right? So basically they say these here, the gray ones, are the ones that are real data collected from statistical institutions, which then uh, explains why that the accounting based on actual materials inside the economy is easier to be done because they normally the data that we track. But then what they do, they try to bring that to a perspective of raw material equivalent. So that's my contribution. So what else which implications come from this? Is there Is there anything, is there any uncertainty related to doing that? Can anyone notice any uncertainty relating to doing this? What do we see here? They say estimated data. And if you browse here, they talk about calculation models and then different approaches to do that. So what do you think comes from this? What are the uncertainties that can come from that? So a different question, what's the advantage of looking at things in terms of raw material equivalents? Looking at a raw material input or looking at a raw material consumption and looking at imports and exports in terms of raw material equivalents. Since we see it introduces some uncertainty because then the data has to be estimated based on models, but why we still want to do that? So last aspect for us to think about. Is there anything left behind? Cool. So our colleague said that we need to consider raw material equivalents because resources are needed to make them and their environmental impact potential will need to be considered later on. True. So it's like if we look, as we said before, if we look only at the materials which are physically consumed in a country, we may be missing the whole supply chain behind them. So the main environmental impacts and the main material requirements possibly will not be reflected in those materials, in those goods themselves, but in what was behind the production. Good point. Yes. So that's the main reason why we look at raw material equivalents. And then building on that, what's left behind? What the website says is not included in this analysis. Like in one term, what is left behind? What they say is not included. There is one keyword there. Yes. So if we look at their description here, they they highlight that unusual material extraction, which we also call hidden flows, are not included. So saying that when we do this raw material equivalent, is still talking about actually extracted and processed raw material, not that it excludes those that fraction of the extraction, a fraction of the environmental disturbance, which happens, which never enters the economy, but is still disturbed in the nature. Good point. So I think after that discussion, we can move on to the next question for the moment. Uh, so next question, so everything now will be based on that website. So this is just a clear description of what is domestic extraction, domestic consumption, and raw material consumption. It's just a terminology. Uh, so actually, you can go to the website and copy what they mean by this. But if you could provide your own words, it would be great. So can anyone do domestic extraction? So can we now, build upon that? What comes to your mind? So you can put just brainstorming, just put keywords here, and then we can make a concept together. Right, so someone offered us a description of domestic extraction. Thank you. And I think highlights here will be domestic environment. What that means is within the boundaries of the country. And another key aspect is further use in the production process. So that's actually what enters economy. Cool. What is domestic consumption? Which is this one. Right, so somewhat pretty straightforward. Thank you for presenting the definition. So what we see here, it is total quantity of materials directly used in an economic system. So how we account for that? Basically this, domestic consumption is domestic extraction plus the physical imports minus the physical exports. So it's just like in terms of physical materials, how much is, let's say, how much stays in that country territory. So it's like a crude balance, like well, not a crude, but a net balance of how much you extract here, how much you import, minus you export. So how much stays in the country environment. Is that important? Why that is important? I think that is important for the country, especially because that may indicate the at least part of the generation of outputs to the environment of that country, correct? Because that has a direct relation to how much potential waste will be disposed of or emissions will happen within the boundaries of the country. So for the countries itself, it's very important to have that characterized. And final term, raw material consumption. So thank you for providing the definition. So what we see here is, I think the key word or the key expression here is the amount of domestic and foreign extraction of materials needed along the supply chain to produce the products consumed in the country. So it's basically, as I said, is to raise scale the consumption of the country, how many products are consumed by the country population or economy, but in terms of raw material extraction equivalent. So it's to attribute to it the upstream material extraction needed to produce those products. And then also to then pass it on to other countries, the extraction which is related to exports. So it's basically to say that, well, all the extractions to produce the things I import go to my account, but then all the extractions to produce the things that I export go to someone else's account because they are consuming the final product. Right, so I think we consolidated that very well. So now we go to question B, which is to report and discuss trends in domestic extraction, domestic consumption, raw material consumption for different countries. Okay, so each person will have to pick up a country. So can you then put here on the chat which country you're going to do the analysis for? I will not do analysis, so you pick up your countries. Okay, so more people, everyone will have to have a country. You can repeat some, but let's first distribute among all of them. Make sure that at least at least one person for each country. More people, come. Cool. China and Australia are taking. Who will take USA? Cool. Japan, someone for Germany? Who will take Germany? Okay, I will take Germany, but someone else will have to take Germany with me. And like someone will take Germany with me, and then other people will have to take the other countries with colleagues. So who else will put the hands up for Germany? Germany is a very cool one. Very good analysis you can make from that. Cool. Thanks, Mindy. And then the other people will take the other countries. Please sign if you're gonna get China, Australia, USA, Japan, or Germany. So let me think about how we do this. I will create groups so we can do that separate in each group. I think that's the best way to do that. So I will create 5 groups, and then I will ask you to you're free to change groups, so you go to the group for your country. All right. So I and Mindy will go to one group, and the other ones will have a respective group for their country. Uh-oh. Okay, so I will create 4 groups because they only allow me to create 4 groups. Sorry, Mindy, I moved you to main group, to main room. Hi, Mindy, can you hear me?